At the beginning of the program, I did say that we'll be focusing on the northern region of the country. The country is divided into 6 geopolitical zones across the 36 states in Nigeria and the FCT. We will be having state elections March 9th, so because of that, we will be focusing on states this week on the show. But what we were able to do is to, categorize the states according to geopolitical zones, because if we're taking it state by state, for 5 days, Monday to Friday, we might not be able to do justice to all the 36 states, including the FCT. So I actually broke them down to the geopolitical zones. My guests are joining me right now. To my immediate right, Dr. Aliyu Audu, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Hatfield Group. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Baffa Saleh is also a public affairs analyst. He's also with me here on the show today. Welcome, Baffa.
Thanks for having me.
Both of you are from the northern part of the country, so I think I need to establish that, because you are both indigenes of the north, so perhaps you can also give me more perspectives about the northern region. Like I established earlier on, elections will be on the 9th of March. Many states, if not all the states, isn't it? We'll be going for elections.
Most of the states.
Most of them, isn't it? Is there anyone that is having
Kogi State?
Kogi State.
Kogi State, yes, Kogi State. And you're from Kogi?
Yeah, I'm from Kogi State.
Yeah. Kogi. I'm of the view that Kogi State should be doing better than it is doing right now.
Absolutely.
But perhaps we'll talk about some of it. Now, 3 of the geopolitical zones are in the north. The north has about 19 states.
Yes.
We're having like economic activities, cattle herding, agriculture, commerce, and all of that across
the regions.
across the regions. Let me start by asking Baffa, how critical will this Saturday's elections be in the north? That's one. 2, the northerners, do they recognize the importance of these elections beyond just stamping on the ballot paper? Do they recognize the importance of these elections to their livelihoods?
Well, like I said in the last program, that the presidential election is not the most important election. All other elections are equally as important. Unfortunately, the reason why the North is in the situation it is because of the situation, because of our leadership, especially the governors. They are not helping matters, and the elections on the 9th are very, very, very important to the North and to the states in the North. Unfortunately, if you would take a holistic view of the performance of governors in the northern region in the last 4 years, was very poor and very disappointing. So I think the elections are very important. I think people should vote based on competence, capacity, and capability, not party. And we'll wait and see what happens on Saturday. But gubernatorial elections are very, very important, and the national, the state assembly elections too. The good thing about the state assembly elections this time around is that the state assemblies are getting first-line charge now. They can be more, they'll be more independent than before. They'll maybe bring the governors in line more than what they did before.
Dr. Audu, you want to answer the question I asked Baffa too? How do you think that the Northerners actually recognize the importance of this Saturday's elections beyond just pressing and going en masse?
Thank you very much. I think, let the truth be told, the level of illiteracy in the North is very high. And when there is no way they can compare themselves and know the responsibilities of the governors and government, they tend not to know what to expect. That's what you find, and that's why there is high level of illiteracy. And more importantly, the northern boy, the normal northern boy, does not know the relevance of government. All he knows is that during the election, he has to vote for a particular candidate because people are telling him to vote, or because he's been given some stipend, maybe 1,000, 1,500, but he doesn't know what to expect. Maybe everybody is obviously the presidential election is gone now, so we are not going to be talking of Buhari anymore. But a typical northern boy who doesn't know what to expect from government, and he's driven by what people say, oh, let's vote this or let's vote that, and he's given 1,500 or 2,000 naira and he votes. But due to the high level of literacy, most people in the north do not know what to expect. And the population of the north is dominated by the young, between 20 to 30. That is where you have the majority. And a lot of them, or even less, yes. And a lot of them are uneducated. So they have no expectations of what to expect from government. And that is exactly what's happening. The government takes advantage, or the candidates, should I say, takes advantage, and sends in, money to just sway the votes their way. And that's what happens. But according to statistics, due to the high level of literacy, they don't know what to expect. And that is what the candidates or the governors are taking advantage of.
So in essence, poverty...
Sorry, I would like to come in here. I think I have a different view when it comes to this question. I didn't answer it properly, but let me come back to this issue. There's high level of illiteracy in the north, I agree. But at the same time, there's sophistication.
Region. We know is broken down to northeast, northwest, and also north central. Now let's focus a bit on the northeastern part. We know that Boko Haram insurgency has actually plagued the northeastern part of the country for quite a while right now. I'm also being told that it's moved over to the northwest region a bit. Zamfara State is also having its own...
Yeah, but it's not Boko Haram.
Yes, it's not Boko Haram, but insecurity.
Yeah, insecurity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's having its own share.
It's not only Zamfara. It's in Katsina. It's part of Sokoto, and
so largely insecurity.
Insecurity is
in
a
the
major
northern
issue.
part. What would you say has been the likely impact? Of course, it's likely obvious for everyone to see, but in terms of even the numbers, and for those of you that are from that region, can you just quickly run me through some of the impacts, especially negative impacts, Dr. Audu?
Well, I'm from Kogi State, so there's insecurity, but less compared to
But there's kidnappings going on in your state.
Yes.
In fact, for people that are traveling that will cross your state, you will have to have your heart in your mouth.
Yes, absolutely correct. Now, in the previous administration, it was worse. But in this current administration, Buhari administration, they've gone a step further to curb insurgency, especially Boko Haram. But obviously, the job is not well done. There's still pockets and lots of attack on people, especially before in Plateau State. I was interviewed on Al Jazeera about, the recent headsman killing in Plateau. That is another worrisome thing. That has gone down relatively low during the election. We don't know what it might turn to tomorrow, but we still need to do more, because if there's insecurity around that region, that's going to affect economic activities. That's why you see prices of food goes up, because farmers cannot come out to farm, especially in a place like Plateau State. Herders cannot really take out their, legitimate herders cannot take out their cows to go and herd, because they are afraid of Boko Haram. So it has a very negative impact on the economic activities.
Do you think that though you said that this government has tried to address it, but addressing insecurity, especially in the northern region, has it been fully addressed? Has it been fully addressed?
We can do more. We haven't done enough, because one of the primary responsibility of government is to provide security for everybody. And security is number one. Without security, you can't even go out to work. They can do more. I believe enough is not being done. I believe the government can do better. And it should take us back to the 80s, when there was relative calm everywhere.
What do you think the government should do beyond what
I
it's doing
think
now?
in terms of, they should get legitimate people to head our security agencies. Very serious-minded people. And if they are not doing the job, they should be replaced. And, you know, better people, leaders should be put there. Because at the end of the day, you know, we are budgeting almost $1 trillion for security in our budget. Now, that should go a long way to reducing insurgency, especially, you know, these people going about doing this don't have a budget. They are relying on, you know, kidnapping and all that to make money. So with all this money going to budget, we have the Nigerian military, we have the police, we have the Air Force. We should have brought it to a relatively calm sense. It should, you know, any form of insurgency should be zero by now. But obviously, we hear things like, you know, there are elements in the government that have hand on it because they are benefiting. So if they're not doing a proper job, in my view, they should be replaced. Okay. Security is non-negotiable. That is my view.
Let me bring in Baffa here with the devastating impact of Boko Haram. You know, cannot be, you know, we cannot overemphasize it enough because it impacts food security and all of that. But from the elections that were done, presidential elections, a lot of people are also of the view that, okay, that we were having insecurity challenges in the north, yet a lot of people came out to vote according to the numbers of INEC. What does that also signify?
Well, one of the reasons is that I think people in the north take elections very seriously, very, very seriously. Many people in Abuja and in Lagos travel down to the north to vote, but I'll tell you that I'm just being blunt. A lot of people from the south do not travel to vote, but northerners that are even cannot afford to travel will find money to travel just to vote. So they take the elections very seriously. That's why you see a high turnout. And we're talking about security. The government did a lot in the northeast concerning the insecurity, but it's not enough. And unfortunately, insecurity worsened in the north central and the northwest. People, my heart is in my mouth anytime I'm driving from Kaduna to Abuja, because a lot of people take the train now. All of them, all the elites travel by train to Kaduna from Abuja. They don't, or take a plane to Kano. They don't use the roads anymore. I came in like 5 days or 6 days ago from Kano to Kaduna, then to Abuja. Let me tell you something. I did not see up to 5 checkpoints throughout my journey. And another thing is that, unfortunately, I hope the new IG will do something about it. Our police are just there collecting bribe on the road. If you come, you might have weapons in your car. 50 naira, 100 naira, you just give that and pass. So I think there's a lot of work that has to be done with the security agencies. A lot of reforms should be done. I'm just hoping that since we have a new IG and he's a serious-minded person, he will reform the police. Maybe if they need to be given better salaries, that should be done. And what you call it, the service chiefs, it's high time they go, because they have done what they can do. You know, we need to get new hands in there. Okay.
For those of you watching us and you want to be part of the conversation, please feel free to do that. You can tweet me right now. Go to Twitter, find and follow me at Nancy. You'll also find and follow the show, Moneyline AIT. You can also subscribe to our YouTube page, Moneyline with Nancy, where you can watch this episode of the show and other episodes of the program, even as far back as 3, 4, 5 years ago. You can find those shows on YouTube. Now let's continue our conversation. The North also has, you know, a lot of leaders are from the North, leaders of, you know, intellect and all of that. Check out Emir Mohammed Sanusi II, for example. That was a former central bank governor. And I think it was in 2017 in Kaduna, he did say that Nigeria's northwest and northeast are the poorest in the world, actually. He didn't even say in Nigeria. And there was a time he was even being attacked for saying, build more schools in the north than mosques. And he was attacked for that. Perhaps because he recognizes the importance of education, as well as perhaps also healthcare, which Bill Gates did tell us, was it last year when he came to Nigeria, that we should focus on human capital. How do you juxtapose this right now with the kind of leaders that we have in the North, vis-a-vis what Sanusi said? Also, Governor Masari, that's of Katsina State, he did say that the North is not poor, but lacks quality leadership.
It's true.
But his counterpart in Borno State, that's Governor Shetima. Governor Shetima did say that poverty in Nigeria wears a northern cap. So perhaps this caps you men are wearing is a northern cap that is of poverty.
I'll agree.
So how do you justice all this?
I will agree to some extent to what the governor of Katsina said, is the leadership. I think he will agree with me. I was in Ajaokuta 2 months ago. I was in Ayimba. I went to Ajaokuta. He knows the kind of mineral resources they have in the state, and almost every state in Nigeria. I think, other than the Republic of Congo in Africa, there's no country that has resources like Nigeria, and we have fertile land all across the country.
And about 70% land mass is in the north.
So you see, we don't have any excuse. It's not the issue that God has not given us. Is we have terrible leadership. Like, take the Katsina for instance. The person that said what he said, I think the governors that came before him did 100 times better than him. And the fact is, the reason why Shetima said what he said is because the North has a higher population, and the North has a higher population of illiterates. People that have not gone to school. Out-of-school children are more in the North. I am part of an NGO called Northern Reawakening Forum. We've been here for over 8 years. One of the major problems that we have are the governors that they feel we are a threat to them. We don't have, the only people that were hurtful, Erufai, Shetima, Kebbi State, but the other governors were even fighting us. We are trying to help them with the out-of-school children. We're trying to help them with healthcare and the rest. So leadership is a major problem that we have, not only in the North, in Nigeria generally.
How should poverty in the North be addressed? Because it's very saddening, and you know, I feel very disturbed. Actually, even here in Abuja, when you go around, I did say at the beginning, a lot of people that come to beg alms from here are from the North.
It's true.
When you go to even the marketplaces, go to Wuse and all those, is it Mebaro guys, are from the North. That you see that these young guys are depending on like perhaps 500 naira a day. You know,
not enough.
Or which is not enough, or even less than. How should poverty in the North be addressed?
Oh, well, again, we talk about the leadership. We have very poor leadership in the North. And, you know, the leadership, the quality of the leadership affects governance. Now, that's why today we have 10 of the poorest states located in the north, from Zamfara to Jigawa to Katsina and all that. Adamawa and all that. And we have the leaders there. Now, obviously, there is something wrong with the leadership, because gone are the days of Granite Pyramid. Kano is a very blessed state. It's a commercial center, nerve center. And before, you know, we had the granite pyramids, you know, we exported oil, granites, and it was a very thriving center. Nigeria made a lot of foreign income from agriculture. Now, what is going on now? Since the discovery of the oil, the North has been going down. Look at my state, for example. Kogi State. We are one of the richest people in terms of mineral resources. I don't think the governors should be FAC allocation to governors. Let them tap into the resources of their states, because that is what is making them dormant. If there's no FAC allocation to states, then states will have to, first of all, work on improving their taxing companies to earn revenue, and secondly, to earn revenue from their resources, be it agriculture or mineral resources. Once you put those conditions, you know that the only people that contest for election are people that have development interest at heart.
Now, what would you say, Dr. Audu, sorry to cut you short, just to also buttress this, what would you say of people's opinions? Because I've heard a lot of people say that the leaders of the North, it is deliberate on their part to keep their people perpetually in destitution and in poverty. That also the culture of the North does not encourage that prosperity or entrepreneurship amongst the Northern people. You go to a rich man's house in the North, you see all the younger ones seated around him, squatting like this or putting their legs like this and depending on perhaps the crumbs from the table of the rich man.
Well,
so perhaps poverty is also a political tool in the hands of the leaders of the North.
Well, that was before. Before we had that sort of system, even though I don't think it was as bad as people waiting for crumbs, but, you know, is an expression. That was before. Now we have new emerging leaders in the North. We have, for example, Sanusi. Sanusi, I've been a very great admirer of Sanusi because he says the truth. I mean, let's not wish-wash the truth. There is poverty in the North, worse than other states. And until we bring in new crop of leadership, and we listen when Sanusi was speaking and talking about the level of poverty in the North, a lot of, he was ruffling a lot of feathers, and people were upset because he said the truth. So we need people, leaders that will come out bold and, you know, bring out policies that would address this issue. Because what you're having, you're creating, Karl Marx once said that if the poor keeps getting poorer, the poor will get so poor that they'll have nothing to eat but the rich. This is what is causing insecurity, because these people are unemployed. Now so if Boko Haram comes and says, well, I'm going to provide you employment, you earn this little amount, come and work for me, they will all go. And you have one of the highest population in the North. Imagine them being economically inactive and somebody comes and offers them some form of
which they are doing now, because
activity. They will follow it. And that's why the level of insecurity is very high in the North. If you go to if you go to Lagos, for example, now, and you tell the normal person that is working very hard to earn money to come and he will tell you, no, I have a family. The life of responsibility. So if they really want to address the insecurity in the North, we have to address the economic problem. We have to empower the common man on the street with resources so that he can have a living, a source of living. Okay, and when you have a source of living, you have family, you value your life.
Now let me bring
so that is where the crisis is.
Even from what you've said, that since the economy of the North is not as prosperous as it should be and is not as inclusive as it should be, we've also heard reports of perhaps Boko Haram offering some kind of amount, ridiculous amounts to children, even in the North, to spy on Nigerian soldiers, so to speak, and getting them in harm's way. I still want to talk about what Governor Shettima said, Borno State. He did list out about 5 key points. I hope I'll be able to remember all 5, but about what major challenges the North has. He did say bad economic position. He did also mention illiteracy, which you've alluded to, poverty. He also did mention, which one again? Okay, 3 out of 5, if I remember the 2. But what I actually want to stress out now is the bad economic position that he said. Do you agree with it?
Well, I don't really agree with it. The reason why is the North in a bad economic situation is because of the bad leadership. Let me give you an example. One example. Olam Farms wanted to establish what you call an industry in Kano State. Unfortunately, they were following the governor for over 1 year to give them land. He didn't give them. RFI heard of it because RFI invited them to Kaduna. 60% of what is produced in Kaduna is sold in Kano. So it's leadership. If you know what's good for your people, you'll do what the right thing. RFI saw the right thing, he did it. A friend of mine wrote to RFI. He didn't know RFI. He wanted to build a solar company for training. The day he wrote him, the day he got an offer of a land, and he was given the land and the school is there and people being trained. So it's leadership that's a major problem. If we have leadership that know what they're doing, we will not be in this situation. Because like I said, every state, Zamfara is one of the poorest states, but Zamfara has mineral resources that can sustain the state and even give back to the center.
Absolutely.
And you're talking of power. That brings me to the issue of investments in the north. Because if you take a look at even when foreign investors are coming, most of their investments are down south. They hardly come to the north. Though I know that General Electric signed an MOU for solar power in 2016. I also do know that as the Northern Governors Forum. I also do know that there was an MOU in 2017 with GE, General Electric, to enhance healthcare in the north. We've also seen, I think, World Bank gave $775 million to, you know, rebuild the northeast. But I think in the tomorrow's program would focus more on that, and even the Northeastern Development Commission that has just been established, that will be on the show tomorrow. But if we still take a look at how critical this Saturday's elections will be, vis-a-vis, you know, the kind of population that I see from the north and INEC declares, you know, it should buttress that we should have a productive populace.
I agree.
You know,
I agree with you. The issue is that it's very important for our governors to realize that basic education is very important for even if it's primary school, read and write, and then the north has to go back to farming. And there are some states that have in the north that have 3 or 4 universities. They don't need 3 or 4 universities. They need technical schools that will teach people how to paint, how to become mechanics, how to be electricians. All of us cannot have degrees. Not everybody. Not everybody is supposed to be a doctor. Not everybody. So people have to farm. People have to learn how to do trade. So I think the governors have to go back to education. Make sure the importance of education. They don't take education seriously.
How about the Almajiri?
School?
Yeah, that's one of the things, you know, mixing the Almajiri school with what you call Western education is very important. Unfortunately,
because the Almajiri schools too have also been criticized, that what kind of people do you want to also train? You must train children for the future. You must train children for the coming centuries.
The Almajiri school had both Western and Islamic education, so it was a good initiative from Goodluck's government. I think this government should build on that, like they built on the infrastructure that they're building on. They should have taken it from there.
Little is better than none. The north is very, very rich in resources. I mean, if you're coming from Kano down, it's flat land. What do they grow there? Onions, tomatoes, and a lot of things. So if we can tap into our resources using the concept of comparative cost advantage, we tap into it, grow it in huge quantities, and export it to areas. That's what happened to why we don't have granite pyramid anymore. It's all gone. And that's because we have bad leadership.
But we should be thinking beyond granite pyramid.
No,
now we should be thinking of processing
I'm talking about that as an example that this is where we were before. Are we there today? No. Now, let me give you an example of the textile industries in Kano, what they call dumping. Wapa is a place in Kano that has the highest commercial activity in billions of naira. Now, what the Chinese people did was to go there and give them textiles, and they were giving the textiles free, while you're buying Nigerian textiles, which made Nigerian textiles to become more expensive.
Okay.
So people now, if you're getting Chinese textiles free, cheaper than Nigerian textiles, people started trading in Chinese textiles. Today, over 100 textile companies that we had before have come down to only 10. We don't produce textiles anymore. That is jobs gone.
All right.
So these are where where is the function of the customs? Customs is supposed to come into this and to ban importation of Chinese products into this country, because we are losing jobs and we are losing economic activities.
Okay, I have to hold you because time is fast spent. Time is fast spent. We will continue, of course, the program Eye on the Northern Region tomorrow. I did say earlier on the show, as we prepare for Saturday's election, throughout this week on the program, we'll be looking at states according to geopolitical zones. But let me just quickly take some comments, Director, that came in from our viewers. Wafo says, how is it possible with the current literacy level in the north. While he says, true, that explains their docility when it comes to issues of governance and accountability. Emmanuel on Twitter says, no part in Nigeria is poor, but the lack of visionary leadership is our doom. While Osarame says, the gentleman on suit is breaking it down well. He's quite aware of the problems and challenges from the north. Taiwo says, I would say the governments in the north are not doing enough to improve the living conditions of the people there. A lot of comments coming through, but we'll take them tomorrow. Keep your comments coming through. We will continue the discussion tomorrow on the Northern region. Like I said earlier, and we would also focus on the Northeast Development Commission that was established recently. In January, President Buhari inaugurated the committee, and I think it has a chairman now. That's the NEDC, Paul Tafa. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. Many thanks, gentlemen, for joining me on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
And take the message back to your leaders that a lot has to be done. They don't listen.
We just have to take the leadership from them.